18. I'll be using the New Revised Standard Version this morning. Now, when Jesus saw great crowds around him, he gave orders to go to the other side. A scribe then approached and said, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said to him, "Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Another of the disciples said to him, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father." But Jesus said to him, "Follow me, and let the dead bury their own dead." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. You may be seated. Thank you for standing for the reading of the word. At this point in Jesus' ministry, he really is a fashionable success. His teaching has attracted huge crowds, and they're delighted. The established religious leaders are not yet united in getting rid of him. And people are actually being healed from all kinds of illnesses and bondage. Jesus is a pop star. In Galilee, he really is Mr. Popular. He is surrounded by a large group who all want to be a disciple. Note, he doesn't choose the 12 until chapter 10. So everybody in this little caravan that follows him around, they're on the Jesus train. And he does have a large group that are following him around. They want to be associated with what he's doing. Why wouldn't you? And the Bible seems to paint a picture of people who are really excited about it. I mean, they're excited about this new teacher and this new teaching. And they are really excited this might possibly be the new leader. They honestly, at this point, want to be part of his ministry. And then Jesus begins to say and do things that are a splat and a thud. Things that are different. Things that are even questionable. First thing, did you notice? Big crowd. Applause. And what does Jesus do? He goes, "Let's leave. Let's leave the crowd. Let's go to the other side." I mean, just when they're having a huge success, just when the ministry is growing, think of all the potential. But instead of staying there and growing that ministry, banking on that ministry, or even maintaining that ministry, Jesus tells his band of groupies, "Let's go to the other side. Let's leave this place." Now, a couple of important realities. The other side. The other side of the lake is what he's talking about. And on the other side of the lake, it's less populated. Jesus, what are you thinking? And the other side of the lake is predominantly Gentile. Jesus, what are you thinking? Remember, Jews who mixed with Gentiles became unclean. Remember, Jews thought everyone who was a Gentile was trash. Interesting strategy of Jesus, this new rabbi who has power from on high. We can safely assume this decision and even command of Jesus. Gather up your stuff, we're going to the other side. may have caused some discomfort, or at least some questions for some of those who had their overnight bag over their shoulder ready to go, ready to win the world, ready to be Israel on top again. Jesus is still an amazing teacher. Don't you love the Scripture? And we are blessed with His words, insights, and directions, all written down for us and on the internet and on the Bible look-up places and on the TV and about everything else you can think of. What a blessing. That really is a blessing. And Jesus still heals people. He still heals people from physical, emotional, and spiritual illnesses. Jesus still sets people free from bondage. We have testimonies to that all over this building. And we get all excited about those activities, and we really should. But when He begins to call us to the other side, when He begins to call us to something different or something difficult, we might find ourselves a little hesitant to climb into the boat that's going somewhere that isn't in our plans or on our comfort level. Times haven't changed much, have they? We might stand cautiously on the shore if He wants us to be around people we think are evil or somehow frighten us. And we might get real doubtful about His commands if He tells us to leave a successful situation. So as this group is nearing the shore, it gets awkward. Verse 19. A scribe then approached and said, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said to him, "Foxes have holes, and the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay His head." This scribe that comes to the Lord, according to this scripture, he's genuine. This guy would have been a professional career person. Scribes went far beyond just simple secretarial skills, which they did have. But being a scribe included teaching and interpretation and regulation of Jewish law. In Galilee, scribes acted in the synagogues as the teachers. And in Jerusalem, they were high-level officials linked with the chief priest and the Sanhedrin. Just to be considered a scribe meant he would have already completed a discipleship program, a lengthy study with another rabbi. And now he's coming to Jesus with that background. "Teacher, Rabbi, I will follow you anywhere, wherever you go." When the man says, "I will follow you," he is expecting to follow Jesus just like a normal disciple would follow any rabbi. And how that worked was you went and you listened to rabbis teach, and the rabbi you agreed with the most is the one that you followed, and then you spent time with that rabbi, and then you became a rabbi. He's expecting, if he is satisfied with the philosophy of this new teacher, he will enlist himself. And wouldn't Jesus just be happy to have him? Because that's the way the system worked. You see, this guy is still immersed in the regular, ordinary system. And that's why Jesus' response is so surprising. Foxes have holes, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Jesus is not just saying, "Hey, buddy, I'm homeless." You know? Because in their day, rabbis, teachers, enjoyed a relatively high status within Judaism. But Jesus is telling him, buddy, I'm going to have no school. I'm going to have no synagogue that's mine. I'm going to have no prestigious place of honor among the religious establishment. This is not about being homeless. Jesus is telling this man that his ministry, Jesus' ministry, will not result in an institutional enterprise. I'm not here to put Israel back on top. I'm not here to oust the Romans. I'm not here to change that kind of stuff. My ministry will not necessarily bring respect. It will not carry any weight with the politics of the day. It will not have earthly benefits, probably. A disciple of Jesus will not be able to climb the ladder of the old system. Following Jesus does not mean economic security, fame, or reputation in this world. Somehow, that's got to go deep within us. We may have those things. The Lord promises He'll provide for us. I don't doubt any of that. As a matter of fact, I'm a recipient of it, and I'm so grateful and thankful. But that's not why we follow Jesus. We don't follow Jesus for what we can get out of it. We don't even follow Jesus just to not go to hell, as big as that is, or to go to heaven, as huge as that is. That's not why we follow Jesus. Sometimes people, even us, even me, can get swept away by times of emotion or an exciting ministry or a spiritual high. Now understand, none of those are wrong. The Lord gives us mountaintop experiences so we have strength in the valley. But if our choice to follow Jesus is based on a spiritual high, that is not discipleship. It's just not. And the reality is, Jesus calls for disciples, not just decisions. You realize that, don't you? Because if that's all Jesus needed was a decision, the Bible would be really short. The New Testament would be one page. And here in this little splat, thud, scripture, we hear it loud and clear. Jesus is calling all of us. He's calling all of us to be willing to give everything and go anywhere. Thank you, Glenda, for that song. Give everything. Go anywhere. That's what He's calling us for. Now, believe you me, but dependent upon your gifts and graces that the Lord has given you, He's not going to call you places where you can't go. You can rest assured in that. The Lord is not an evil taskmaster. But He calls us all. He calls us all to be willing. Here in this verse, I think we can truly say He is also being very specific about giving up any preconceived expectations of security in this world, or following some system. Doesn't mean that those who give all for Jesus will be destitute. What Jesus is digging into and poking here is our motive. What are our motives for following Jesus? What's our deepest motive to become a disciple? Of a man, you realize, when you become a disciple of Jesus, you're becoming a disciple of a man who was rejected and murdered and tortured. And his ministry got way down. if I remember correctly, there was a handful after the crucifixion. And if I remember correctly, in Acts, the church, it says the church was gathered and it was 120 people. What happened to the crowds? What happened to the crowds? What's our deepest motive for becoming a disciple? Why would a person be a follower of a man who showed us true self-denial and self-giving and then expect that of us? In this passage, you realize, I got to thinking about this and it was so funny. If you read further in this chapter, guess where Jesus slept that night? On a boat. And it was no pleasant joyride, and it sure wasn't a yacht. He laid his head by stinky fishnets. Maybe laid his head on one. I don't know. That's who we're following. A disciple of Jesus will not be able to climb the ladder of any old religious system. Following Jesus may not mean economic security, fame, or reputation in this world. We follow Jesus because he loves us and we love him back. Sometimes people, even us, can get swept away. The call of Christ to those who would be his followers and his disciples must be willing to give all and expect nothing. Because here's the reality. You know what grace is? Unmerited favor. We don't deserve any of it anyway. We are just simply thankful that he saved us and that he cleansed us and that he lives in us and that he loves us and that he equips us to be a disciple. I can't even believe that the God of the universe would want that. Verse 21, another of his disciples said to him, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. But Jesus said to him, follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. Well, I have to tell you, there are all kinds of interpretations for this verse out there. And here's the reality, they're probably all correct in some sense. But they all end up in the same place. This man is following Jesus. He has seen some amazing things. He has heard the best teaching he's ever heard in his life. And he is in the group. And now Jesus calls to go to the other side of the lake. I mean, this man is part of the roving troop that the 12 disciples are going to be chosen from. And as they walk to the sand and the rocks of the shore, what this man is really saying is, Lord, I will follow you when I'm free to go. Lord, I'll follow you when I'm free to go. I promise. I'll follow you when I'm free. I'll follow you when I am free. It's an understandable statement, isn't it? It's possible that we have all used it at some point, such as, someday when I have the time, I will do so and so. Someday, when I'm financially stable, I will give to the church and I'll help the poor. Someday, I will straighten up my life and do what Jesus wants. Someday, when I feel better, I will call and help others. Someday, Lord, I will follow you when I'm free to go. Man, this hit me like a ton of bricks this week. I didn't have the splat thud thing till I got here. And then I went, thud, splat. Jesus says to him, follow me now, or it may never happen. Now, we don't like to think that way. We like to procrastinate. We like to put things off. But the reality is, the Bible teaches us very clearly that life is like a flower, and it fades and is gone. We were joking earlier in the service, some of us, about being a little older. It goes fast, doesn't it? And I know when I was young, I never thought that. Thought I had all the time in the world. It goes fast. And so the words of Jesus echo. The words of Jesus all of a sudden hit home. Let the dead bury their dead. He's not saying be disrespectful to your family when they die. That's not what he's saying at all. He is saying, follow me now, because if you don't, it may never happen. If you don't go see that person when they're sick, they might die. If you don't take that little class of children, they might never hear the words of Jesus. If you don't get on a boat and go to Africa, someone, maybe even a whole city, will never know the love of God. I don't know where Jesus calls to follow to. But I know when he calls, he's saying to every one of us, follow me. Let the dead bury their dead. I found a interesting note in a commentary by Barclay. It's the guy's last name. In his autobiography, H.G. Wells told of a crucial moment in his life. He was apprenticed to a business that sold cloth and dry goods. It was a very profitable business. He was good at it too. And there came to him one day what he calls an inward and a prophetic voice. And all it said to him was, get out of this trade. Get out before it's too late. At any cost, get out. And he's like, what? I'm making good here. But the man did not wait. H.G. Wells did not wait. He got out. And today, we have great literature. Wholesome literature that you can read. Because believe you me, a lot of it out there is not. Someday is not an adequate answer for disciples of Jesus. He's calling us to the now. He's calling us to the now. And it's what the situation is, what the call is not the issue. It's, do we say yes? He's calling us to make the most of every day, or every opportunity for him and his church. Jesus' words ring out this Sunday, January 22nd. And they say, follow me. Let the dead bury their own dead. We begin the journey with Jesus just like these people did. We hear his teaching, and we often see his miracles. And when a person comes to Jesus, they ask for mercy and grace, and he fully gives it, but it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. Discipleship is an ongoing practice that I believe lasts forever. Those people who were following Jesus to the boat that would take them to places that were insecure, unexpected, self-sacrificing, and sometimes difficult. What Jesus wanted them to know is, hey, know what you're getting into when you follow me. Jesus still does that. What is our expectation of the call from Christ? And what is the motivation of our answer? As we go to prayer this morning, I'm going to have our praise team come forward. And I want you to feel free to pray at your seat, or I want you to feel free